Okay, at 6 o'clock, we'll call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance led by Clerk Frank. Now I'll move to section 3B of the agenda, which is to read out the action taken in closed session. During closed session this evening, the board took action to unanimously appoint Mr. Ali Rabi'i to the position of assistant principal at Center Street School for the 2023 for the 2023-2024 school year. After 3 rounds of interviews that included administrators, teachers, classified staff members, and parents, Ali Rabi'i rose to the top as the perfect candidate to join the Center Street community. Dr. Moore?
Yes, we'd like to have Mr. Rabi'i just stand and be acknowledged. Take one more bow. Here we go. We are thrilled to that Mr. Rabi'i was interested and applied for this position. It kind of surprised all of us, a little bit of a curveball. But as someone who's been in the profession a while, he brings just such a depth of knowledge, and he just wants a new opportunity to grow as a professional. And going to the elementary school and a tremendous community that is present at Center Street, along with Miss Ahrens, they'll be a mighty team. So congratulations, Mr. Rabi'i.
All right, now we'll move to section 3C, which is public comments, and we will start off with 5 minutes for Carolyn Knott.
Thank you very much. Hello, members and parents. I'm actually addressing my comments to parents. Social and emotional learning is implemented through relentless surveys of students, parents, and teachers. This is called SEL. It is the practice of psychology, actually, on groups of children in uncontrolled, non-therapeutic spaces by non-therapists. These surveys ask very personal questions about emotions, safety, relationships, and sexuality. Education manuals say that SEL is evidence-based, but it's not actually based on any evidence. Evidence-based really means they're collecting evidence from our kids. Social emotional development is prioritized first in school, and academic performance is only an afterthought. At home, the World Economic Forum says parents must have the same SEL knowledge that teachers have. So you're going to have to go to SEL training, parents, just like the teachers do. Actually, I saw on tonight's agenda that El Segundo Unified has scheduled the first parent education evening for September. You may even get to keep your kids as long as you go to the Marxist Continuing Education Evening. That's some serious control. We now have ESSA, the Every Student Succeeds Act, that's requiring the reporting on non-academic competencies in order to receive federal monies. What? Why is an education policy concerned with non-academic competencies? The more of these programs they put into place, the worse schools perform. We are giving all of this money and power to people who say that the foundational definition of the thing they want to implement is, well, still evolving. Yikes. Society is being Marxified by SEL, as well as radical feminism, critical race theory, queer theory, and post-colonial theory. SEL itself is a many billion-dollar industry right now in all 50 states and in every school district. This is a gigantic grift off of civil rights laws to get schools to pay for expensive consultants to avoid possible litigation. Now, the OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, knows that they can actually change people's personalities through targeted SEL on malleable aspects of human personality. That's why they've been collecting all the data. Already, SEL has been embedded into foundational ed tech products. One of these products uses a webcam and algorithms to capture, identify, and analyze human emotions and reactions using eye tracking. It compares a user's expressions with a database of more than 1 billion facial expressions to differentiate between emotions like happiness, fear, surprise, and confusion. Who owns that data? Not you. Well, Google or Microsoft or other companies actually collect it and then rent it or sell it to the highest bidder. Behold, the power of global organizations. UNESCO has agreed to partner with Microsoft to jointly develop programs and solutions that use technology for education. The OECD and UNESCO will replace our free market with this Marxist economy of the future. This demonstrates how SEL is being positioned as a proxy for social economic value. You might have seen this in China. And the political management of populations. That's directly from their own literature. It is explicitly part of the Sustainable Development Goals in the UN 2030 Agenda. This is by far the grandest attempt at a crime against humanity that's ever been made. This school board has refused to listen to parents. And now, parents, you know the dark truth about SEL, and yet Dr. Moore continues to act as a Marxist tool, shoving it down our throats. There is another option, but we'd have to fight to obtain it. Parents, wake up. Opt out of SEL. Refuse to do even one more stupid survey. Say no. Take your kids out of El Segundo Unified. Homeschool your kids. You won't be alone. There's support for you when you decide to protect your kids. There will be difficult consequences as well, but if we don't say no now, tomorrow's consequences will be even more severe. Just go live in China now if that's what you want. Instead, look to a future of freedom. It is ours, but we must choose it. Capitalism is the only system that has been shown to resist communism, and we must continue in a merit-based society with individual integrity based on our Judeo-Christian heritage. Parents, you must choose your freedom, or SEL will roll right over you. Thank you.
Thank you. We have our next speaker, Jadranka Draskovic. 5 minutes.
Okay. Hello, everyone. All right. Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly. My name is Jadranka Draskovic. I think that most of you are familiar with me. I am a parent, a resident of the community, and a former member or interested in the school board member. I come to you today because I understand there is something on the agenda to bring Monique Marshall back to the El Segundo community, not just as a professional development speaker, but this time far more. She's going to be engaging with students, and the district will be paying her $22,000. That's a lot of money. $22,000. I can tell you, as a member of the PTA, we work really hard to get that money donated so that we can pay for things in the schools like the weights in the weight room, items for the band room, or tables to set out for the football games and college and career day in the high school. That's a lot of money to spend, and I think that if parents were aware of it, they might actually feel the same way. I was here a couple of months ago when we were talking about having her in as a professional development speaker for Richmond and Center, and at that time there were some parents that voiced their concern about that. There's a lot of political rhetoric that's associated with her videos. If you go on her YouTube videos or on her website, you'll see she is divisive in her nature in speaking, and some people felt that political talk of that nature was not necessary to bring into the classroom. However, the board agreed upon paying her $2,000 to speak, which is, again, a lot of money for a speaker. $2,000 she received for coming in and speaking to our faculty and staff. But now the district wants to amp it up a bit. Not only is she going to speak to faculty and staff, but now she's going to have access to students in the means of assemblies, one-on-one talks with students. So I would imagine that some parents might be interested to know that this is going to happen at the schools. At what point are our principals going to put this in their weekly newsletters so that parents are aware of what to anticipate? And finally, to be able to opt out of these assemblies because they don't want their parents to be, or their children to be part of a political rally at school. If I go back to the $22,000, let me just say that as a member of PTA, and I know the Ed Foundation works very hard to raise money for the apparent things that the school is not able to pay for, like some of the stuff that I mentioned before. So if we were to consider what the PTA is paying for in terms of all of the additional things that the high school or the schools are not able to take care of because they claim not to have the resources, do you think that parents might have a problem with the $22,000 that are being spent on a speaker? And again, are there any academic benefits associated with this? I thought that we were working towards fixing the low test scores in both reading and math. Remember that? Wasn't that a thing? And we're not focusing on that anymore. Now we're diverting our funds to another area. Well, I know we're all on the DEI bandwagon here, and that's what this is all about. So everybody wants to jump on that train because it's cool these days. It's fashionable. Everybody wants to be on board. And that's what this is about, inclusivity. I get that. However, if we're going to be inclusive, let's include everybody. A very important population that I talk about frequently, because I have one at home, is the special ed population. A small group here in El Segundo, but nevertheless an important one, and it's getting larger. We have more IEPs coming our way. With the permit students that are coming in, we do not know what to expect in terms of IEPs and 504s, and we are woefully as a district underperforming in terms of our IEPs. Our kids do not have the resources that are needed to succeed. Case in point, we have one APE instructor for the entire district. One. How is that gentleman meant to do everything that he's able to do? Physically, he cannot do it, even though he is a fantastic person. The OT. For years, we've only had one OT for the entire district. Physically, she cannot accommodate all of the students on her caseload, and it is growing. So what I'm asking you to do is do the right thing. $22,000 is a lot of money, but put money towards other students so that they can all fall in that inclusivity wagon. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, 3 minutes, Michelle Keldorf.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for having me here. I'm here to talk about a non-agenda item. My name is Michelle Keldorf. I have 3 children. The oldest graduated from El Segundo Middle School last year. The middle is a 6th grader there, and the youngest is a 3rd grader at Center Street. I was so pleasantly surprised. This is not what I'm here to talk about, but welcome Mr. Rabihi to Center Street. That makes my heart swell, and to hear the cheers from some of my favorite teachers back there is amazing. So he'll be a great addition to that school. I'm here on the surface tonight to talk about the middle school's recent honor roll policy. However, on a much deeper level here, I'm here to express my concerns about the way the IB program is currently being implemented at the middle school. A few weeks ago, parents were sent home a notice that ESMS would be bringing back honor roll for the first time since before COVID. Students would qualify based on their citizenship and work habit marks. At the time, their midterm progress report was given. In order to be invited to attend Universal Studios, students could not receive any U's in citizenship and no more than 2 2s in work habits, which is graded on a 3-point scale. Academic grades were given no bearing on qualifying for honor roll. I don't believe the students had been told about the scoring criteria ahead of time, and several parents were either unaware or somewhat confused when it was announced. So in an effort to clarify, I reached out to our middle school principal, Ms. DeVlantis, and I want to take this opportunity to thank her. She was incredibly responsive and candid, and my personal feeling is that she is one of the most stabilizing forces we've had at the middle school in a long time. So my comments tonight are in no way a knock on the work that she and the administration are doing on site there. I think she's excellent. I am, however, here to ask for the board and superintendent's support in reevaluating the grading and achievement standards at the middle school. In one communication, I was told that an IB program does not honor grades in any way. This was not the case in 2019 or at the start of 2020. Prior to COVID, we were also an IB program, and students' understanding of material was based on letter grades that encompassed homework assignments, quizzes, tests, and classroom participation. Students have been back in the classroom for 2 years now. Yet the middle school is still employing a system that is at best confusing and at worst, in my personal opinion, demotivating. The numerical grading scale from 1 to 8 is often subjective, and the entirety of a student's achievement grade is based on summatives rather than periodic work to assess their individual understanding. Can we please stop saying that this is a byproduct of being an IB program? I am completely bought into the district's mission of developing critical thinkers in El Segundo. My concern is that this program in its current form is not doing that. I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. There is nothing harder or more sensitive than dealing with people's children. So I greatly appreciate that. I come and talk to city council all the time, and this is harder. Don't tell them that. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker, 3 minutes, Travis Siegel.
Actually, I'm not quite ready.
I'll move you to the end. Our next speaker, 5 minutes, Aaron, and I'm having a hard time reading this. Is it Winbrush?
I thought we were going to speak after the agenda, but,
You want to wait until the end of the meeting?
well, I just wanted to see the results from the survey, the final
Not a
survey
problem.
of the,
That's fine. I can hold it to
Okay,
the
that'd be
to the
awesome.
close of the meeting.
that would be great.
Perfect.
Let me clarify. You're here primarily to speak to the board before they take action on adoption of the safety recommendations, correct?
Correct.
So what we could do is we could have the presentation by Mr. Abihi.
Okay.
And then when the item comes up for action, which is 6B,
Okay.
before the board hears my recommendation, then we could have anyone on that item
Oh,
speak.
that'd be amazing. Thank you.
Okay, great.
Okay,
Very
thank
good.
you.
Let me just make note of that. Okay, excellent. All right, and then we'll move on to the next person, school safety, Damian Martin. Same thing, perfect, okay, thank you. All right, now we'll move to the superintendent's comments.
I just wanted to respond as it related to the funding sources for item K, Monique Marshall. So the funding sources are the Educator Effectiveness Grant, which is specifically for professional development of our faculty and staff. And then also both Center Street and Richmond Street school and library block grants. And this is actually training and activities that specifically fall under their school plan and their goals. In addition, Ms. Marshall's training does include the identity of all students, including those with special education needs. Thank you.
We will now move to section 4A of the agenda, Student Representative Natalie Long.
Hello, everyone. First off, congratulations, Mr. Abihi. I'm kind of glad I'm leaving this year because it would be very sad to not have you next year. First off, we had our spring production Into the Woods that wrapped up last week. 4 successful shows, amazing turnout, and the cast did fantastic. ASB has officially announced that we're doing another lip dub this year. And that will be taking place next Thursday. And if all goes as planned with editing and everything, I talked to Dr. Moore about maybe showing it during the board meeting. So hopefully it goes as planned. So stay tuned on that. And our official college day for seniors is this Friday, where seniors can wear their college merch to the school they will be attending in the fall. So if any seniors are watching, remember to wear your merch. And then AP testing is underway. I am pleased to say I'm done with all AP tests. Never have to do an AP test in my life. So to those who are finishing out, stay strong. We got this. Our Hits for Huntington's signups have started, and this is our annual tournament where teams dress up and we raise money to find a cure for Hits for Huntington's. So we have around 16 teams. It's a single elimination tournament. So we're really excited and hopefully can raise some money. And then for some exciting sports announcements, the boys swim team won CIF. They won the whole thing. They won the whole thing. So congratulations to them. And our boys volleyball team is made it to CIF finals. So they will have their CIF final game this Saturday at 9:15 at Cerritos College. So I will be heading out there. I encourage everyone to come and support. This will be a big game. So wishing them the best of luck. And that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to agenda item 4B, and that is the update from the El Segundo Education Foundation. Danielle Christian, Vice Chair.
Hello, everyone. I'm Danielle Christian, Vice Chair of the El Segundo Ed Foundation. I just wanted to speak to you for a moment about our final fundraiser of the year. Next Friday, May 19th, we'll be hosting our 11th annual Ed Gala at Chevron Park from 6 to 9. I hope that everyone will be in attendance. Tickets are currently on sale, selling out fast, so purchase your ticket. If you can't, however, make it, we do have a silent auction that goes live on Friday, so please bid. We have over 170 items in the silent auction, so if you can't make it, you can still bid, and we would love that support. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll move to presentation, yes. Section 4C of the agenda, and that's the presentation on California State Civic Seal requirements. Craig Gass.
Yeah, I'd like to call forward Steve Gebhardt, who's going to introduce Mr. Gass, and we're very excited. Mr. Gass actually teaches civics at the high school, and we're going to get a better idea of this new opportunity for our students.
Thank you, Superintendent Moore, Board President Wheaton. It's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Gass to come up and give this presentation. A little bit of context on the presentation. This process started back in 2019 when ESHS was nominated for the California Civic Award for Merit. And once that award came through, they next moved up the progression to become a California Democracy School. And as a California Democracy School, ESHS was eligible to offer students the opportunity to earn the State Seal of Civic Engagement. And that's where Mr. Gass comes in. He's been doing some great work. Mr. Rabi has been supporting him while he was still at the high school in doing some of that work as well. But Mr. Gass is going to come up and talk about the requirements. And at a future board meeting, you will see those requirements codified in board policy and admin regulations. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Gass, who's going to talk about the California State Civic Seal requirements. Mr. Gass.
Good evening, President Wheaton and school board members and Dr. Moore. Thank you for having me tonight. As Mr. Principal Gebhardt mentioned, actually back in 2018, this all began with an email from the city manager saying that he would like to arrange a project with the school and the city. I took that as an opportunity, went and met with him, and we devised a whole project to do with the city every spring. In 2019, it went so well that I saw that there was a state recognition for projects that encompassed an entire class of individuals at a high school. So I applied for that award, and miraculously, we got recognized as a California Democracy School. We had a little WASC visit from the LA County supervisor come and visit. They spoke with Dr. Moore and the board at the time. And just so you know, only 36 schools in all of Southern California have that designation. And the only one near us is Culver City. That's the only school that has that designation in all of the South Bay. As a result of us getting that designation, our students can earn an extra civics award when they graduate. And I think Mr. Rabi put together a great medallion for them to wear, their cap and gown. And the state put together 5 criteria to meet that, which I'm going to go through with you right now. The criteria were generic, and they left it up to each school district to devise the specifics to meet each criteria. I've met with Principal Gebhardt and Mr. Rabii and Marisa Janicek, and we came up by looking at what other schools have done, plus what we think we can do at our school, and come up with the requirements to meet those. Criteria 1, if you can do, is a basic one, just be engaged in academic work in a productive way. So we looked at what other schools had put as their requirements for that, and we kind of matched them to have an cumulative GPA of 2.0 and to be on track to graduate. Criteria 2, though, is a little more complicated. That says to demonstrate a competent understanding of the California and United States constitutions, the functions of local government and tribal governments, the role of the citizen in a democracy, democratic principles and concepts and processes. The U.S. Constitution and the role of the citizen in a democracy and democratic principles and concepts are all covered in our political behavior classes. But for time's sake, we do not cover California constitutions or tribal governments. And the state knew that, so they put together, if you could do the next screen, they put together a Canvas course online that kids could take to meet those requirements. So those are the only 2 things they have to do outside of my classroom, and I did have students already start completing those, and it takes about an hour to do those courses, and you have to take a little quiz at the end. And then we also put together a requirement that, because it's a civics requirement, that they should get a C or better in world, US, and political behavior in their social science classes. So that's how you meet criteria 2. Criteria 3 is a little more complicated, and that's where our Civics Day comes in. It says to participate in 1 or more informed civic engagement projects that address real-world problems and require students to identify and inquire into civic needs or problems and consider varied responses, take action, and reflect on their efforts. Next slide. Participating in the Civics Day project that I've worked out with the city every spring will meet all of those requirements. And then in the fall, I do a mock Congress on a national level with all of my classes that also meet that requirement. If a student has happened not be in my class, there is an or there, they can do a student-led project of community engagement on their own and devise that with a teacher supervising them and have their own log of the project that they're doing, and it must be a minimum of 20 hours of work. For criteria 4, they ask for a reflection. It says demonstrate civic knowledge, skills, and dispositions through self-reflection. Both of my mock Congress and Civics Day require them to do research and turn in a reflection paper on the research, so that meets that requirement. They can also do a public presentation, which the Civics Day is also going to do. The school board and Dr. Moore and Marisa are all coming on Monday night to see those presentations in front of the City Council. And then they can also do a capstone project or a portfolio with self-reflection if they happen not to be in this class, because we wanted to make it inclusive to everybody in the senior class. The 5th criteria is about character, and the character traits that reflect civic mindedness and a commitment to positively impacting the classroom, school, or community. For this, we came up with a requirement to have a teacher recommendation as to their character, and then also the verification of their GPA in social science classes with a C or better. So those are the 5 requirements to earn the Civic Seal. In addition to that, the state is also encouraging K through 12 civic engagement. So one of the things we're going to be working on this summer, the school board, our district has approved me to work with the middle schools and elementary schools on devising elementary and middle school programs that will be stepping stones to the high school program. So we're going to work on that this summer. And then also we just, as we mentioned, we ordered medallions. I think at least 75 of our seniors this year will be getting them, possibly more. I'm trying to get that number defined as to how many are working on it. But those are medallions they can wear on their cap and gown for graduation. So that's basically what we're working on, and we would like your support in that, and hopefully get board approval for that.
Thank you. Any comments, questions?
You know, first I just want to say thank you for taking the lead on this. At the CSBA, there was a big LACO presentation, and I happened to attend, and it was great to be there and see of the small amount of schools, El Segundo is one of them, and it's because of your initiative and effort in doing this. And I know it's been going on for a few years behind the scenes and making this happen. And, you know, and I want to stress this on your behalf, that the officers at LACO were very adamant that this be nonpartisan, that it promotes civic participation, civic understanding, and that it was a pathway to civic participation. And so I'm really grateful because I think it's something that's being lost. There's not enough of our students that are involved in the process. And I say that generically in regards to the process. And you and I have had the opportunity to talk about this, and it's just a wonderful program, and I'm really grateful that you're doing it, and thank you. And can't wait to see all the presentations on the 15th coming up. So,
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah, I'll just add to that, just by saying, having seen a couple civics days in action now, what a wonderful, like, firsthand experience that you and the city are bringing to our students. I mean, it really is an amazing opportunity to be in there and work the way it works. So grateful for all that effort beyond all these other things that you've taken on as well. And I know our students definitely, like, feel empowered after doing that. Like, I've talked to several of them months later, and they still talk about it as such an amazing experience. So thank you for that, and excited to see how they benefit expand.
I am too on Monday. We'll see.
Well, I'd just like to echo the comments of my other board members too, and thank you for all the effort you put into this. It's great to see a teacher taking up a complex task like this and bringing real value to our students. Thank you.
Frank.
And lastly, I just want to say thank you as well. I appreciate you taking your passion, passing it to our students, taking it to City Council, and then having our entire district recognized as a result. We appreciate you for that, and more importantly, we appreciate what you give to the students as a result of your passion. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Meredith. All good?
Oh,
Thank you
Mr.
all.
Gass, you should tell all the students they should come to a board meeting and see politics in action.
We'll do a field trip next year. All right. Thank you all. Have a great night.
All right, next we have section 4D of the agenda, the presentation on school safety report and recommendations.
Yes, I'd
Dr.
like
Moore?
to call forward Ali Rabihi, the new assistant principal at Center Street School starting July 1st, coming attractions. But right now, he's been administrative support at El Segundo Middle School.
Go Bulldogs.
And so he has been someone who has been a valuable asset to our district as we consider district safety, and he will continue in that capacity as he moves into his new assignment next year. So, Mr. B, I really am grateful to you for your partnership on this venture and assisting with all things ACUS Consulting and next steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Moore, and thank you, President Wheaton, and members of the board, cabinet, and folks out there here in the audience and also streaming. School safety, let me first start off and say it has been a process this year, and we're going to highlight this process and where we're at before we present to you the recommendation for adoption and acceptance. So what we've done in 2022-23, the steps that we've taken as the community knows, we consulted with Dave Klug once again with ACUS Consulting to conduct a series of facility assessments, faculty and staff-wide trainings, including tabletop exercises for our front office staff, administrators, and we've also held back in October a safety town hall where Mr. Klug came actually to the boardroom here and presented to the community and answered a series of questions, which was also live streamed. Then in step number 2, Mr. Klug came forward in front of the board on February 28th and presented his report and recommendations, and they've been at your disposal since then. From that point on, Dr. Moore and I conducted a series of listening tours, feedback at all of our sites. We'd held coffees with the principal. We had one in each school, with 3 actually at Center Street School, including an evening coffee. We had an employee meeting as well, and we also conducted a series of parent and employee surveys. We actually conducted 2 surveys at Center Street School. We recently closed our stakeholder-wide survey at Center Street, which I will share the results with you in just a few moments. And we also, it's not mentioned up there, but we also did consult with personnel professionals with our risk management firm for their advisement as well regarding recommendations and next steps. The next step in the process was to prioritize the recommendations that were outlined by Mr. Klug, and here from top to bottom, you see the prioritization of those recommendations. I'll elaborate on each a bit further later on. But number 1, implementing the locked door classroom approach district-wide, so during instruction, all classroom doors are to remain completely secured and locked. Revising and standardizing our comprehensive safety plans, installing video surveillance monitoring in the front office, training our personnel, our teachers, to utilize the public address system, developing a plan for lockout technology, which I'll go over in a few moments again, installing peephole viewers in select doors, and the last piece, which is specific to Center Street School as it relates to access control, developing a robust plan to standardize access control at Center Street School. And having said that, we did conduct a stakeholder survey at Center Street, presenting the question of whether the community there, including parents and employees, if they were in support of the recommendations made for standardizing access control there. The results came out with 416 respondents. 60% were opposed, 40% were in favor. So once again, 60% were not in support of a recommendation, while 40% were in favor. And to elaborate further on what these next steps are district-wide, like I shared, implementing locked doors, as we saw time and time again from the research that Mr. Klug shared, a locked door is the one safety measure that can take place to mitigate an active shooter, active assailant situation. Standardizing our safety plans, which we'll of course move forward and do. Installing video surveillance monitoring, that's namely a selection of 7 to 8 monitors from our well over 270 camera systems district-wide in the front office for constant monitoring by front office personnel. Again, a recommendation from Mr. Klug. The public address system, we have the infrastructure there thanks to our IT department, but in this recommendation to train our teachers to initiate a lockdown from their classroom phone, and that of course will be, like I said, coupled with training beforehand. Lockout technology, the ability to lock and secure main storefront doors at our campuses in the event of an impending threat or indication of a threat. Installing peephole viewers in select doors, which we can work through our maintenance operations department to accomplish. And then with regard to Center Street School, now that I'm going to be at Center Street, of course I'll be working with Principal Ahrens to develop a plan along with their safety committee on the access control approach. We are also looking into the exploration of what would be called the Cougar Crew. This is actually mimicking what some other neighboring school districts have, a select number of parent volunteers who would also get trained to assist with that morning drop-off to support students in getting to the classroom safely. And then, as we've seen with some neighboring districts, allowing for parents to walk their students to the classroom door those first 1 or 2 days of the school year. And again, this is specific to Center Street School. That is a summary of the process that we've taken this year. Again, I just want to thank Dr. Moore for being the partner with me as we went through this entire process at all of our schools, very mindful, research-based, methodical to carry out the next steps. I'm here available for any questions.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Rabi, could you explain what the layered approach to security is and what it means in terms of Center Street School?
Sure thing. So when it comes to layered approach, it's essentially about access. As risk management has also indicated to us, when you have a large number of individuals on a campus that's during a chaotic time during the morning, as it is anyway, it creates the propensity for a possibility of something to go awry. And so the layered approach allows for curtailing the number of individuals to enter the campus, namely through limiting the number of ingress points, limiting the number of individuals who enter the campus. Obviously, the campuses, when they open, there are for our students. We want to make sure that they get to their classrooms. But of course, limiting the number of non-students that come onto campus. So namely, the employees or certified trained volunteers there to make sure that students get to their classroom appropriately and on time, and of course, most importantly, safely. That is kind of in a nutshell what the layered approach is, which has been historically recommended by safety consultants and safety professionals.
I have a question. I saw the mention of a safety committee at Center Street School. Is there one already in place, or would that be a newly created committee?
It's a very good question. Members Arnicki, so every single school has a safety committee, but in addition to that, we do have a district-wide safety committee that's composed of representatives from each school's safety committee. So it's nothing new. It will be something that will be continued. Safety committees are typically comprised of teachers that are on campus, classified personnel, including the inclusion of the school resource officer for their valuable input, along with school administration.
So would the Cougar Crew be a new thing for Center Street then?
Yes.
And,
The Cougar-
and how would we go about like choosing those parents, or how would that all play out?
Sure. So this is all very much an administrative function, administrative task that Principal Ahrens and I would have to work on and implement. But I do want to share that in my research and looking at neighboring districts, there are programs similar out there. So the first, of course, is putting out the feeler, who is interested, which parents are interested. Then after the interest comes in from the parents, making sure that those parents are properly trained, the do's and don'ts of the role of a Cougar Crew member. Now, while that is going on, a logistical plan has to be put into place. What are the school's ingress points? What do individual Cougar Crew members do? Where are they exactly stationed? Do they guide students to the classroom? Do they guide students through a path of travel? As I shared, the path of travel is going to be also critical. All that is part of the training, and then while that is also going on, we need to educate the school community and the students as well. What are those paths of travel? So it will be a task, but it's a task that I know Principal Ahrens and I are, eager to take on and to carry out effectively for the safety of all.
So we talked about the new Cougar Crew, but my question for you is surrounded around parent volunteers. So for those parents that want to volunteer in the classroom or in the workroom to make copies, things, do you have to be part of the Cougar Crew for that, or can you still?
That's a whole, so the Cougar Crew is a whole separate entity. Parents can still, the other volunteerism that occurs at Center Street School can still continue and flourish. We have awesome parents. I can't wait to meet them all. But with regard to the Cougar Crew, that's a separate entity. It can definitely be mutually inclusive. You could be a volunteer making copies for your child's class and at the same time be a member of the Cougar Crew. So there's no mutual exclusivity. It can definitely be mutually inclusive as well.
So
Thank you.
it's not a PTA thing, is what you're saying. There's the school level
Exactly.
volunteership, and then the PTA would still be
Yes,
separate.
it's under the supervision of the school administration, correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, board, thank you.
All right, now we'll move to section 5, the consent agenda. We have one pull, so we're pulling K, and so can I have a motion?
I'll move approval on items A through J and L through V.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Okay. Natalie, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Motion carries 5-0. May I have the motion?
I'll move approval on item K.
I'll second it.
Okay. Any discussion?
Thank you. Just really quickly, at looking at the scope, I know this topic's been discussed, in particular the consultant, but in looking at it and the scope of work, when it goes beyond professional development for our faculty and our teachers and parent meetings, student assemblies, that's not professional development. And so the scope of work to me goes outside those parameters. Professional development given to teachers to then take that utility back to their classroom, implement it with students. But this also has parent night, student assemblies, outside committee work. It just extends beyond that professional development scope. I don't know what the results or what that curricular items would look like, how it would be presented, what they would be. So I just don't feel comfortable in voting on it right now.
Okay. So just for the record, you are recusing yourself from.
I'm not recusing. I'll vote no. I mean, when the tally's called, because I don't know the scope of the work or the curriculum that's being presented.
No problem. Okay. Any other discussion?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that both assemblies and professional development are routine items, and that is why they appear here on the consent calendar. So, for example, item H, which the board just approved, was a positive thoughts and purposeful action assembly at Center Street School. So although this item K is using educator effectiveness grant, obviously that portion would be the portion that would be the professional development payment. But the library block grant is also used for anything such as parent education and assemblies. So I believe the board item does clearly outline the scope of the work. And in the future, I'm very happy to provide the board additional information in keeping with our board protocols, should you request that.
Okay, and to be clear, the parent education evening would not be mandatory. Is that correct?
No parent education evening is mandatory.
Okay. And the assemblies, ideally, the outline of the assemblies will be discussed with the staff. Is that, I mean, they'll know what's coming. We've had some incidences in the past where we might not have known what was coming in assemblies before they came, and then we heard about it, and I'm just hoping moving forward that you've talked about this. Okay, I need to hear that. Okay, thank you.
So the professional development is 1 half day, 3 hours, and 2 professional development workshops for 90 minutes. That's the scope of professional development that's being provided. The scope of work, like I said, nothing's mandatory, regardless. I was asking, I would ask that maybe we table this so we can get a better idea of what it's going to look like. There's time. These dates are coming out later. I just don't feel comfortable because there's not enough information that's being provided in a small outline. I'd feel much more comfortable if I could see the content.
Any more discussion?
I think as it relates to the other items on here, we don't provide that kind of level of detail in these items, and that has not typically been the degree to which the board has been involved, respectfully.
Yeah.
Okay, and just so that I can call a vote, I want to, you're abstaining or you're voting on it?
I'll vote.
Okay, perfect.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Natalie, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those who oppose?
Nope.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0 with 1.
4-1.
Excuse me, 4-1. All right, now we'll move to action items. We will start with action item 6A, acceptance of gifts.
In accordance with Board of Education Policy Number 3290, the Board of Education may accept gifts as long as there is no conflict with the Education Code or other public laws. The school district has received generous donations as detailed below and on the screen. These donations do not conflict with any Education Code or public laws regarding acceptance of gifts. And I'll just read the names of the donors: the American Online Giving Foundation, the El Segundo Middle School PTSA, Center Street School PTA, the Blackbaud Giving Fund, and Kroger.
I move acceptance of the gifts.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Thank you.
Okay. Just thank you for some very, very generous
Yeah,
donations.
all the PTAs, all the stuff that's going to come down, trickle down to the schools.
Natalie, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we have action item 6B. Dr. Moore?
I believe we've had public comments that would like to be heard before the presentation of the recommendation.
All right, at this time, I would like to call Damian Martin, and it's 5 minutes.
Hi. Thank you for allowing me to address you guys. I just want to make a few key points. One, that I've said before, and I know some of you have heard it, I feel that the safest time on campus for our kids is during pickup and drop off. The reason for that is because we know each other. We're there. Nobody has more of a vested interest in my kid's safety than me. Same goes for every other parent that's there. I think that locking us out is not the right way to go about any of this. The recommendation that was made by Dave Klug was to limit access, not eliminate it, and funnel access through a single entry point. We're already doing that. So what is going to make it safer by keeping the parents off of campus? I don't think anything. There is no way that you guys can guarantee 100% safety by doing this. There's the social aspect of this that is key to not only our kids' development, but the community feel that we have here in El Segundo. During COVID, we were kept off of campus for obvious reasons, and this is our second year for our kids in school. And there is a disconnect that we see with our first grader and that parent group versus our TK student this year. We are much more connected because of this time that we have during pickup and drop off to socialize, to set up play dates, to ask questions, to be a community. And we're having that taken away and stripped from us. It's just not the right way to go about things. I'm all for a lot of what was recommended, but keeping parents off of campus is just not what was recommended. That's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Travis Siegel, and it's 5 minutes.
Thank you. So a lot of what I'm going to say is exactly what Damian said, is the important parts of socializing and getting to know other parents, not only to set up play dates, but also, ask questions, about assignments, things of that nature. But also, like Damian said, there is no person who my kids are safer with than me. So when I walk them to class and I see that they're in the door is shut, I know they're safe at that point. Removing parents from the campus completely doesn't do anything except create a disconnect with parents, teachers, and other parents. It's really not in their best interest, in anybody's best interest, especially the kids. The safest time for the kids is when all of the parents are there. Everybody watches out for all the other kids. You get to know the other parents. If by chance there was somebody there who people started to, realize that maybe they don't belong there, we don't recognize this person, the more eyes on that situation, the better. So while I do think a lot of the recommendations made are good, maybe we take a step and start implementing some of those other things instead of going to the extreme and removing parents from the campus completely. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And last, we have Aaron, and I apologize, I cannot read your writing, but I think it's...
I gave you my legal name.
All right, well...
It's Wiedenbush.
Wiedenbush.
Don't-
Thank you so much,
don't
Aaron.
Share that.
Okay.
Um,
Strike it from the record.
Good evening. I want to keep it quick because I've been vocal about this for months. I just find it concerning that the parents have spoken with a majority via the surveys in regards to the Center Street parental access, and somewhere along the line, it seems as though the fact that there are children isn't being recognized, and we voted on the board to represent us as parents, and I just hope that happens tonight. It's as simple as that. I hope the parents aren't ignored to secure liability instead of a community. And lastly, our children are protected most when they're in our presence. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Dr. Moore?
I want to thank the parents who came out and also attended all 3 of the events. This is a really hard one, I think, for all of us. Following May 2020 mass shooting that occurred at Robb Elementary in Uvalde, Texas, the El Segundo Unified School District community expressed serious concerns regarding safety, and that's why we went back to Dave Klug. We reached out to him. We asked him, hey, we've done some things now. You were here in 2018. Let's take another look. What did we do well? What do we need to continue to refine so that we can ensure that we're doing everything we physically can to make sure our schools are safe? So it's hard to fathom that in the last 10 years, the frequency of mass shootings have just simply increased, frankly. And such statistics are seriously alarming and, frankly, deeply disturbing to me as superintendent. The board's goal for the future includes Goal 5, to maintain physical health and address school safety, long-term infrastructure, and facility needs, specifically in the heading of safety. The goal outlines our intent to continue to monitor and review school and district policies, practices, and protocols for evidence of safety and security. So I can remember when I stood in front of folks and proposed fencing at our schools. When I came in July of 2014, I toured the school campuses. Dave Lubes was assistant superintendent in HR at the time. He drove me around, and we went to all the school campuses, and there wasn't a fence that was in front of any school. And that was not something I set out to do, but as we looked at our schools, that definitely became something with law enforcement's presence in our focus groups that we needed to change. And so this particular goal really says to me that we're constantly having to evolve and constantly having to look at safety based on what is currently in place at the time. In addition, the goal says to implement evidence-based best practices related to school safety on an ongoing basis. So this will probably not be the first and last time we bring a consultant and look at a report. I would anticipate years from now, when I'm no longer here, the superintendent will bring a similar report, once again, to take a comprehensive look with a third set of expert eyes. So over the past 2 months, Mr. Abihi and I, as well as board members, were in attendance at listening tours, hearing from stakeholders regarding school safety. And we heard a lot, and a lot of differences as related to each school community and what they believe to be the best next steps, or how we as an administration, whether it be at the site or at the district, could improve. But the topic that hands down generated the most amount of feedback was that of this access control at Center Street School. So the safety of the students, the faculty, and the staff is of utmost importance to, I know, the board, and certainly myself. As if an individual, whether it's a student or a teacher or the front office staff, don't feel safe, whether it's at school or their workplace, that individual cannot fully thrive, whether it's they're not thriving as learning, they don't feel a sense of belonging, they don't feel they can perform their duties at the level that they need to because they're worried. We need to address that, and we need to take that into consideration. So I truly wish our students of today were able to live in the innocence of the wonder years existence that I had when I grew up. Fortunately, that does not exist for all our kids today, and not in all our communities. So therefore, it is essential that the district use the evidence-based practices that are being recommended. And I recommend the acceptance and adoption of the security report that has been put forward by Actis Consulting.
May I have a motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'll go first. So I'm a parent of a child who is now in the high school, but I'm a parent of 3 kids who have gone through the district all the way from TK, or Teddy as it was called then, through graduation. I wasn't a Center Street parent, though. I was a Richmond Street parent. And I'm all about community. Actually, a slogan that we had at the Ed Foundation was, "Our schools are community," because that's what El Segundo is. Our schools are our greatest asset. In my family, in our family, we've created bonds with all of the parent groups from all of our kids. We were at Richmond Street where we weren't going to the classroom with our kids. We learned to make friends on the sidewalk or at ball games or at AYSO. Allowing parents on our campus does create a security issue, because once the student is on the campus, it's the responsibility of the school district. That child is the responsibility of the school district. And if anything happens to that child, it comes on our shoulders. We've been inundated with information about school security. I think all of us have read reports. We've done our research, and we've learned what the best practice is. And the best practice is to create a perimeter around our school. That's the first form of defense. As we were talking about earlier, it's a layered system. The perimeter fence works with everything else we're doing, with the security cameras, with the locked doors, with the peepholes that we're going to put in the doors. So without the perimeter security, we don't have a security system. And I think it's vital that we follow the recommendation of the superintendent. Thank you.
Thanks. Hardening campuses, and I think the key word that I heard Mr. Rabihi use was not prevent, but mitigate. Unfortunately, if someone wants to do harm to other people, they can do it if they're willing to risk their own self. It's been problematic for me as a professional when I've been on open campuses because it's even difficult to mitigate if someone is wanting to do harm. I think after reading all the evidence, and the one thing that stuck out with me was a locked door, locked gate mitigation. Can we fully prevent anything like this from happening? No, there's no system that can. We're doing all we can in regards to, and Frank talked about it, a layered system. Well, we have preventative software, we have tip line, we have counselors, people connecting with students. We're doing all we can to mitigate these things from occurring. If it does occur, we have to do everything we can to mitigate it. It would be irresponsible and actually negligent on our part if we didn't after hearing these recommendations and hardening our campuses. And fortunately for parents, you don't share that liability. It's not your responsibility. And we have to take it as a board, as a district, very seriously that we can prevent as much as we can from this happening. And so we have very different cultures at our campuses, but most of our campuses are hardened. They have very deliberate access points and exit points. We have extra security personnel walking the campuses in the mornings. So, like I said, I think it would be completely negligent on our part not to accept what I think is a standard practice now in mitigating this. And, you know, I am a parent, and unfortunately for me, none of my children wanted me to walk them to their class. They got to the front gate and took off, you know, and I understand, and I'm not trying to minimize parents' involvement with their children because I'm very involved with mine, but I have never had a problem checking in, putting my ID on the counter, getting the name tag and walking into a campus and being welcomed for volunteerism, social dynamics, other parents, whatever it might be. And I hear the concerns from parents, and again, I want to thank all the people that wrote us letters, comments, emails. We do take them seriously, we read them, but we can't respond individually. And I know President Wheaton made every effort to respond to everyone that wrote us on this topic. And I'm greatly appreciative of all the community effort that's gone into the discussion of this and all the meetings and everything. But like I said, I don't know as an individual teacher, you know, if something happened to a colleague, a faculty member, a student, someone that works at the schools, how I would be able to explain not taking these measures to harden our campuses at this time. I just don't know how I would explain it to if something like this ever occurred. And fortunately, again, we're in a very small community, very fast police response. We have that kind of, and I will say, false sense of some securities. And like I said, we don't know and can't determine the future. But I think it would be negligent of us not to act on this report factually.
So I'd like to add, do you want to say something?
Oh,
Sorry.
yeah. Just as a student perspective, like the gun violence, everything that's going on in the world, us students see it, not just high schoolers, middle schoolers, everyone sees it. Sorry, I'm a little bit nervous talking. So I think having these security precautions are essential. When I walk into the classroom, I feel a sense of safety, but there's always that lingering thought. I know it's not just me, my peers, we all feel that way. So I think it's really important to take these security precautions. Obviously, I don't go to Center Street. I don't, I'm not well versed with that, but it's something that affects students, teachers, staff, and I think it's essential to take these precautions because, of course, if anything to, anything for us to prepare and for safety. I'm not sure how to say that. How would you say deflect or prevent? That would be the word. My bad. Anything to prevent any of these things from happening. I think it would be. I don't understand why we wouldn't do that. I understand. Why parents might not agree with it, but I just really think it's important to have school safety from a student perspective. We want it. I feel safer having the doors locked. I feel safer having security personnel. I feel so much safer having that, and I think that's really important to look at from a student's perspective, from a teacher's perspective. So, yeah.
It's okay. Yeah, I want to give my perspective because I feel all this deeply. I was a Center Street parent for 9 years. I walked my children to campus. Even when they didn't want to be walked to campus, I was still in tow. But I feel that I feel the sense of community from Center Street because I lived it. But I also feel deeply anytime I hear about an assailant on a campus anywhere in this country. And it breaks my heart. And every time I think, oh my God, it could be us. And so, yes, we mitigate from the risk. We cannot insure. And when I look back at the survey question that we sent out, it had the word insure in it. And I was like, we can't say insure. We really can't. But it is indeed hard to listen to recommendations from professionals in the security realm and legitimate fears from staff, parents, and students, and not try everything we can to try to eliminate some of that. And I think I heard the word like evolving. This is an evolving process. I'm a person who strongly believes in if we know better, we can do better. And sometimes we have to try things and see how it works and hope that our intent behind trying them is good and purposeful and meaningful and moves us closer to something that is better for our whole community. But I know change is hard. And I actually just want to flash back a second because you said something that there's a bit of history. I don't know if people who are newer to Center Street School know, but you mentioned Uvalde was what launched like this latest security campaign. But I will say that I was the Center Street president in February of 2018 when Parkland happened. And we had no fences. We had nothing around that school at the time. And there were people having panic attacks about how open Center Street was, coming to me crying. Kids were nervous. Kids didn't want to go to school. And again, maybe they heard it on the news. I'm not sure how all that filters down to the youngest kids, but there were kids in distress about going to school after Parkland. And hearing that time and again, I remember a PTA exec board meeting like the day after that, we were just, what do we do? What do we do in such an open, exposed environment? And I talked to, it was Mrs. Monahan at the time, and said, what can we do? And she said, let's call Dr. Moore. So I asked Dr. Moore to come over and sit with myself and another parent who was extremely passionate about this. And we just said, what can we do? We have anxiety, just, numbing anxiety at some moments, in some cases, on campus right now. What can we do? And we instantly, Dr. Moore said, we're going to bring in a security consultant. We're going to figure out what we can do and how quickly we can do what the best practices are for our scenario. And that's when Mr. Klug and Actis Consulting first came on. And that's when we got the first wave of, at the time, best practices and recommendations for what to implement. And that's why the bond measure that was passed, even before the bond measure, there were fence design meetings happening because it was so strongly felt, what is the first thing we can do to create that perimeter of safety? So history for people who may not know, I don't mean to take you back that far, but that's an important part of understanding what Center Street has been through. I think there is some next steps that should be taken. I like to know that there's a safety committee that will help us figure out what is good and what is appropriate. I have full faith that if we have students who cannot, either for actual special education reasons or other social psychological reasons, cannot make it to their classroom door without a parent. We'll find exemptions. We'll find ways to give them that path to delivery to what makes them feel safe. But it is about feeling safe. And I will say, again, while I was at Center Street, we had students express concern over adults on campus that they didn't know. So stranger danger to you might not be stranger danger to them, and vice versa. That is, I heard that firsthand on that campus. So access control is not elimination. Center Street has robust opportunities, again, for parents to be on campus. I know this. I see it all the time for what they're doing with PTA, and hearing that if Cougar Crew is a thing that happens, that's another completely vital role that parents can play on campus. So that was a brilliant idea of how to layer in parent involvement with meaning and purpose and controlled access. The other sad truth is any adult that's on campus can lose it at any time. We don't know who's going through what. Again, I'm so grateful that we do have conversations about social emotional well-being so that we can learn to communicate how we're feeling and when we need help. We don't know when people need help until they need help or they tell us. I don't know, again, what's happening in everybody's mind, but I, again, understand we have many levels in which we can help create the safe environment. That's another level. So I just want to say at this point, I feel like listening to the consultant adds great value. It does support our want to have safe feeling campuses. And if we take some motion here to change things for how they are, and particularly at one campus, it is not unfounded. It is well intended. And if something changes and we need to continue to readdress this, we will. If we find that there are kids that are super stressed out about not having their parents right there up till the very last minute, we'll figure that out for them. I completely know that Richmond Street community is strong, regardless of whether the time with the student and parent happens here or 50 feet prior to there. I know it's still strong. I know, in fact, we at Center Street talked about creating walking school buses at some point. What a great way for classes to meet up at a park or something and walk together. Park your cars far away. Let's not have as many vehicles approaching our campuses as we do. Let's park over here and walk together, have that time together, parents, caretakers, and students, and then enter campus. For that extra 5 minutes or so that you wouldn't be with your student, that's valuable time you could be with them and with others in your community. So I look forward to creating more safety, but also finding new opportunities for community if this change happens. So I think that's enough for me for now. Thank you for listening, everybody.
So I'm going to make mine pretty short. 39 years of education. I taught for 39 years. 22 here, but 17 in Kansas City. And the shootings are, these are not recent. I'm going to go way back. I'm going to go back to Columbine, which was years and years ago. And about 3 weeks after Columbine, and yes, I taught in a tough school. I'll admit that. It was a hard school. But one of my students was shot. And I had to get him into the nurse's office with a bullet in his leg. This is difficult for me. And I know how difficult it is for our parents. And I understand. And yes, I was at the middle school, and no, my students didn't need to have their parents walk them to my classroom. I had a few that did when I first started here. Because we were an open campus, and I had a few parents that did come in and walk their students. And then we got fences, and then we locked doors, and then we had drills. I used to do fire drills and tornado drills. When I went into education, we didn't do, shooter on campus drills. And now we do. So when I was elected here, I take education very seriously. And this is just something as difficult as it is, and I understand that. I think we are doing everything we can to make it as feasible as we can. We certainly are going to make sure that any student who does need help gets that help, but this needs to be done, and I wish it didn't. Gosh, I wish it didn't. But it does.
So usually I find that my heart and my brain are aligned. And I will tell you, on this topic, they aren't. I'm a parent of 3 Center Street children. I have had the privilege of experiencing Center Street at all stages. And I recall back in the day when you could have, right before school started, they would post the classroom that your child was in and every kid that was in that class. And we would run up to the school and they would give popsicles and everyone would just laugh and giggle. And then one year it was taken away, and it was a privacy concern for the kids. And I could not wrap my head around that. It was like they had ripped my heart out my chest. And I was really bothered by that. And I never spoke about it publicly. The next hit that I took was when the gates went up. And I thought, I finally got my kids in the 4th and 5th grade where I can just pull up and do like a open the door, slowly roll, and have them just run to class. And now you put up gates, so I've lost that. And it felt like a second personal violation to me. And the truth of the matter is, as I stepped away from it, I realized it wasn't personal, that it was about safety. And so when I started off saying that my head and my heart aren't reconciled, my heart is always Center Street and always will be. My brain now thinks about safety, and that was not something that I ever thought about as it related to school. And I'm struggling today, partially because I haven't slept. There are parents and teachers in this room that have received emails from me at 1 this morning. And that is because I wanted to answer everyone. And I wanted to give them a personally crafted email, not just a generic out the box, thank you for your response. And there's nothing wrong with that as well when you're getting a lot and you have a full-time job. But what that means is I need to sacrifice some things to ensure that I can give that personalized touch. But I am struggling because the one thing that I listened to from every email that I received was the experience that someone wanted and that they had. And I could relate. I could understand that. But the one thing that I didn't have to read was what a parent said to me if their child had been injured and I made a decision, not being a safety expert. And forgive me, I'm not. I won't even pretend to be. And so I have to reconcile not having that expertise and asking, am I qualified to ignore it? Because I want to have, and I want others to have what I was able to have. And I can see you. I don't see the people who are in the who are at home, but I see the people in the audience. And my heart matches your heart because I know what you will miss because I enjoyed it. And I feel guilty, really I do, saying, I'm going to take away from you what I've been able to enjoy. But what I hope you understand, if you understand nothing else about whatever decision is made when it is time to vote, I hope you understand that while I missed some sleep last night, sending emails, I would never be able to sleep if I knew that I made a decision that could change your family or the families of others in this community forever. I don't know what the right answer is, but I know hindsight is 20/20, and I don't want to be on the end of hindsight, the one making the decision, knowing that I got it wrong. So, however it goes, I ask you to understand that my heart is pure. I understand because I have been in your seat, in your shoes. But right now, based on what I see in the news, I just saw on my Instagram feed today, someone posted a picture of a family that simply went to the mall, the entire family, and I thought, so forgive me for leading with my brain, knowing that my heart cares enough to make a decision that in this day and time may unfortunately need to be made. May I have a motion? Oh, sorry, we already had a motion. Natalie, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those who oppose? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll move to action item 6C. Dr. Moore?
Yes, as we are starting out this month of May, it's an important month. I believe mental health is an awareness is absolutely tied to safety. We still have students that are experiencing adverse effects from the COVID-19 pandemic, and students and staff alike are dealing with various issues. Mental health is absolutely important to our students to thrive. One of the things that we have to continue to promote positive mental health is social emotional learning. And in today's world, it's absolutely essential to support our students. I am pleased to say that there's been much work done in the mental health area. And having various supports, whether it's through on-site counseling with our site counselors, through adjunct services that we have with the South Bay contract, as well as partnerships such as Alcove in Redondo Beach. In the last board meeting, the board also approved a resolution to move forward with teletherapy options for students, should that be a need. So I recommend approval of this important item.
May I have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I think we've expressed a lot tonight about mental health, and the more we can do, again, to support what we can do to help everyone in our community is welcome.
Natalie, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor?
Aye.
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 Those who oppose? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll move to action item 6D. Dr. Moore?
Yes, 6D is the 13th amendment to our master agreement with PBK Architects regarding the school science classroom modernization project. This specific project fees are based on a sliding scale, and there was a change regarding the science classrooms because we needed more space and had to relocate an electrical room. So I recommend approval of this item.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Natalie, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll move to action item 6E. Dr. Moore?
Yes, 6E is looking forward to a deferred maintenance project. So we have contracted with PBK Architects to look at getting a windows replaced in the cafeteria building J at the high school. If you've driven by there, they need much love, and they would get the same wonderful windows
Yeah, they're
that the
bad.
engineering building got, the engineering and art building. I thought we need a little levity up here, people. Let's lighten it up, and we're going to have better windows.
Yes.
Better windows, and we're excited.
So
Yeah.
moved.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, they're sad. We need new windows. Really, yeah.
Yeah, they're in bad shape.
Natalie, may I have your preferential vote?
Aye.
All board members in favor?
Aye.
Those who oppose? Motion carries 5-0. Next, we'll move to the information pending action section, 7A. Dr. Moore?
Yes, I'd like to talk about 7A and 7B. First of all, 7A, we have the summer reading requirement for the middle school. So these both are information pending action, and so this is being previewed to our community and will be brought back for action at our second meeting in May. As you can see from this item, we are continuing with the practice of one fiction and one nonfiction book. And that is at the choice of the student and family. And should a student require some support, we have our librarian, we also have our teachers, and so there are many opportunities for students to make that selection. In addition, at the high school, we did make one change to the list based on the committee and feedback, and we have shifted what was Memoirs of a Geisha to the Joy Luck Club. And so we think that's a wonderful opportunity for students, and A will be brought back for summer reading requirement. That is what the board is approving, not a list, whereas B would be the summer reading list specific to the high school, and each grade level is noted accordingly.
And 7C?
7C is an update in board policy and administrative regulation regarding awards for achievement, and this also will be brought back. This was covered by Craig Gass this evening on the Civic Seal for Engagement. So we look forward to bringing this one back for your approval at the next meeting.
Next, we'll move to Section 8, reports. 8A. Dr. Moore?
Yes, we have our information calendar. So as we look to this month, we've got a lot of PTA installations. So Monday, we have PTA Council on the 15th. On the 16th, we have the middle school PTA. On the 17th, we have the Center Street PTA. And of course, we have the gala on the 19th. As Ms. Christensen shared, we have our second board meeting on 6 o'clock on the 23rd.
And now we have Section 8B.
Those items are there for board's review and for public review. Nothing to add.
And now we'll go to Section 9A, board member reports. We'll start with member Tracy Miller-Zarnicki.
Okay, I will try to make this quick. Looking back, I was pleased to attend the PTA Honorary Service Awards and Founders Day event. Amazing amount of volunteerism in our community. So grateful for the thousands of hours that our parents continue to give. And thank you to PTA Council and everyone that helped put that event together. That was a lovely gathering. We had a very productive city school subcommittee meeting last week and continue to appreciate our partnership with the city on a number of levels, Civics Day being one, and our joint use agreement being another. Other opportunities that, you know, the city hears about, say internships that are happening around, they share with our high school. And so there's all kinds of lovely sharing that goes on between the city and school. I'm appreciative of that. I have been talking with, or at least emailing with members of our Assemblyman Al Maritsucci staff about the continued progress of AB 1216. So those of us that care about the air we breathe around here, and that's important for us in our schools. We continue to hope that that bill moves forward, and our school was a thoughtful partner in helping it get there with a letter of support that came from Dr. Moore's office to say, yes, we would like more monitoring on Hyperion. So that's appreciative, and I'll keep you apprised, or someone will, one of us will. And the city is doing a good job about communicating that as well on how that's going. Lastly, I just want to mention I met today with Jessalyn Waldron of Supervisor Holly Mitchell's office, and she continues to want to know about our schools and how we're doing here, as well as other city type things. But she continues to say that Supervisor Mitchell really likes to interact with kids. So if we in our schools have opportunities to invite her, we should do that, because she wants to know our community better. She's newly assigned to us in this last cycle and wants to know us better. So everybody, keep your ears open for things we can invite our supervisor to. Last but not least, I will say continued good luck to the AP testing people who are going through that. I have one in my house who will have his first one this week as well. So eat good breakfasts, get good sleep, all that stuff. Right, Natalie? That works? Yes? So good luck to all of you, and I look forward to seeing as many of you as possible at the gala. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Nothing much to report on. ESMS and Eagles Nest PTA and PTO meetings will be coming up, so I'll report at the next meeting after those happen. I'd like to say thank you to the high school admin, Mr. Gebhardt, Steve Shevlin. We recently had a memorial for Jason Parker, who was a longtime coach, 30-plus years here in the district. And the amount of people, alumni, community members, he was a bridge between this community and our high school, its athletics. He coached track, football, did all the weightlifting, and was just an integral part of the community. And I want to say publicly thank you for his service, and to his family, all our condolences. And I'm just very thankful that the high school did such a wonderful job in presenting that for him. And you know, unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend. Got on a bus to go to a lacrosse game, and I kept asking myself, what would Jason tell me? He said, "Get on the bus." You know, and so made it real easy for us that there, and you know, we got to talk about him and remember and reflect on the many times he gave of himself for this community with very little in return, and so I'm just so grateful for him. Thank you again to all the businesses, all the parents, volunteers, everyone that provided our faculty appreciative week of meals, perks, gifts, and everything else. So grateful to all the community that came out and did that. I'm a faculty member, so you know, I understand it. You know, and so greatly appreciate that, and thank you to everyone that rallied for those things. And thank you to this community. The amount of communication that we get in emails, in comments, phone calls, just greatly appreciate everyone that gives of that time and effort to give us their perspectives on things. And, you know, and again, I want to really stress is, you know, as a board, you know, we've agreed as a protocol that we don't individually respond to everything, and that it's a responsibility of our president. And Daima explained that a little bit, and she takes a lot of time because, you know, I'd offer a canned kind of answer, I think, with the amount that she gets. And so she's taken that time to personalize them, and I greatly appreciate it because we see the responses. And just know that, when you do give us your comments and those kind of things, we do appreciate them, and we're grateful to have that information. So, thank you.
Thank you. Some reporting from the El Segundo High School PTSA. They're proud to announce the winners of the Honorary Service Awards. Corey Burkett and Laura Heredia, who did an amazing job with the Run for Ed. And student board members Felix Van Fox and Samantha Kinnison Smith were all Honorary Service Award awardees. The very special person award went to Gigi Thompson, and the much coveted Golden Oak Award went to Stacy Long. PTSA thanks SRO officers Mendoza and Gilberts for coming to our last general meeting with a very creative presentation on prom safety. Just as Mike mentioned, the Hawaiian-themed Teacher Staff Appreciation Week was a big success thanks to the parents and community members for their generosity of time and donations to help PTSA celebrate and spoil our wonderful teachers and staff. On May 24th, as Dr. Moore mentioned, will be the last ESHS PTSA meeting of the year. It includes dinner and installation of the incoming PTSA leadership team. And lastly, I attended the spring musical Into the Woods at the I've been practicing at the Performing Arts Center, and like everyone else in the auditorium, was captivated by the exceptionally talented cast. And special thanks to our fabulous director, Mr. Sidwell, and his team. Next stop, Broadway. Thank you.
So I actually have a kind of lengthy report today, so bear with me. I'm doing this kind of chronologically. So my first thing, and I'm so excited for this one, so yay, we get some happy now. Here we go. So I got to attend the All-Star Scholarship Awards for SoCal Rock, where I can't remember the amount, it was like $15,000 in scholarships. And one of our very own arena students was awarded, Josh Robar, and he said that he is hoping to continue his newfound love of the medical field by enrolling in the paramedic and the firefighter classes at Elko next fall. So it was very exciting to have one of my own that I got to honor at that award presentation. It was lovely. In the Woods, and I'm not going to sing, was incredible showcase of talent. Thanks to all the students, staff, and parents who made this production a huge success. I'm going to throw this in here because I can. I was excited to attend a Dodgers game last week with 58 other community members to cheer on our very own Lars Newbar, who plays for the St. Louis Cardinals. Now I'm crying, really seriously. And it's my understanding that on the very next day, there were close to 600 Little League players and parents who went to the game to cheer on Lars. So pretty darn exciting. I was honored to be asked to celebrate Daphne Moot, who happens to be here this evening, for her continued work with the California Teachers Association. The PTA Founders Day tea was amazing. I won't go into that like I was going to. Cougars got talent. They do. They can tap and they can baton and they can do all sorts of things. So it was a very entertaining evening. Lots of smiles had by one and all. The little girls that were tapping, oh my goodness. You could hear them all day in their little tap shoes. I attended the high school choir and orchestra concert last Friday. And it was amazing to watch the two groups perform together. And the typewriter, oh my goodness, it was just so much fun. And as usual, at every high school choir concert, when they call the alumni up at the end, it's the best. The hometown fair was held on Saturday, and I saw a lot of the kids out there selling their wares and lots of cookies and all sorts of baked goods and things going on. I was busy selling rubber ducks for Rotary, and we were able to raise a great deal of money, which generally goes right back into our schools and our community. And then I have 3 big announcements from my time last night at SoCal Rock. So I had another board meeting last night. So I have 3 big announcements. Number 1, this is a big one. Everybody gets to be happy. Here we go. We were awarded, are you ready? $500,000 in CTAC grant. With the help, all of the districts had to turn in their attachment 1. All of our districts did their duty as they were supposed to. So I'd like to thank whoever did that for us. Because heaven knows SoCal Rock needs the $500,000. Our WASC visit was very successful. We have apparently the report coming soon. And the last kind of important announcement from SoCal Rock is that the school board, or the board last night, unanimously elected the hiring of a new superintendent. His name is Dr. Julian A. Rodriguez. He is an executive CTE. He does CTE writing for the Riverside Office of Education, and he is going to be just a huge asset to the program. He's already making plans he's already driven by all the high schools. He said ours was the prettiest. Smart man. But he's already planning big things, so I'm super excited about that. And then as you can see, we've got a lot of things on the calendar, so I'm just happy to be a part of it all.
So I've been quite busy. I was able to attend the CSS PTA meeting in place of member Miller Zarnicki. I don't have much to update on that meeting because I gave the board report, and then I went to the other side of the library and sat with the kids because I wanted the parents who left their home that evening and hoped to have someone to babysit to be able to enjoy the PTA meeting and to participate. And so I was happy to do that because I no longer have very little ones. I did attend the Richmond Street PTA as well, and just want to acknowledge the joint events our elementary schools are doing together. We have the Daughters Night Out event that has already taken place, and the Sons Night Out event, which will be happening this Friday. So just happy that they're able to do that, as well as the 5th grade picnic, which will be coming up in June. I attended the Into the Woods play as well. Very nice. I mean, beautiful. Our kids have real talent. And also the choir concert, which was, again, amazing, beautiful voices. I also attended the Honorary Service Award. And it's just nice to see all of the volunteers. The thing that I loved this year was that they called everyone who was nominated up on the stage. And it wasn't just like, oh, if you were nominated, come to the stage. They first presented everyone's name, and then she said she was going to read their names one by one, and I thought, oh my gosh. But it was done in such a meaningful way that you were able to celebrate every single person and acknowledge that they were nominated because someone thought that they were either special or that their actions and efforts were meaningful. And that's important, and I hope that we all never lose sight of the grace that it takes to serve and the ability and what you have to give up to do it. There's not much to say on the topics that we've already addressed, but I do want to say one thing, and that is it's very rare that you'll find me at a loss of words, but at this point, I just want to say to anyone who thinks that because of that vote, that their opinions, their thoughts, and their preferences don't matter. They do to us. And although a vote has taken place, that doesn't mean that our feelings have just gone by the wayside. I know we have been able to joke about other things and move on in terms of the agenda, but we haven't moved on in terms of our grace that we are extending to ourselves and to those parents and other family members. At this time, I would like to move to section 9B, and that's the student board member report.
Nothing to report.
And on to section 9C, the superintendent's report.
I also want to acknowledge the choir and orchestra concert. Both Gianna Summers and Rosalind Darbo did an exceptional job. I had not been to a concert where the choir had actually played or sang alongside the strings like that. And it was absolutely beautiful. I was thinking to myself that Dwayne Conover would have been so excited to have heard those strings. They played a medley of all the songs from Lord of the Rings. They had a whole medley of those songs and just little snippets. And the strings and the depth of the music, the talent of the kids, they sang, they danced. They demonstrated leadership, just really exceptional. In addition, members of the team and I had an opportunity to recognize Kim Linz, who was selected as Chief Business Official for AXA Region 14 and the state at an event in Redondo Beach. It was very nice to celebrate her. We have 2 schools that received a new recognition. Both Center Street School and Richmond Street School were named Project Lead the Way Distinguished Schools. So congratulations, Center and Richmond. And certainly Danielle and Fong contributed to that, so we appreciate their efforts. And this week, Marisa and I received some exciting news. Marisa is being recognized for an Impact Award in Innovation. She was nominated by a colleague who indicated that Marisa leads others to reimagine what school can look like for the modern student and the needs of a changing society and workforce. Her innovation has made El Segundo Unified School District a model for the effective use of technology to engage students in their learning, increase efficiencies for teachers and staff, and remove barriers to access and increase achievement of all learners. So congratulations, Marisa.
At this time, we'll move to section 10A. Are there any oral comments from the audience? Okay. We do not need to recess to close session, so we'll move right to section 10E, and that is the memorial adjournment in memory of Jason Coach Parker, a former El Segundo High School coach. And I'll read what we have here, but I do want to acknowledge Member Wagner for personally talking about his experience. And so from here we have Coach Parker was a coach at El Segundo High School, where over the course of 25 years he coached football, wrestling, baseball, softball, and track. He was also instrumental in the year-round weightlifting program for El Segundo athletes. He will be greatly missed by many athletes, friends, and colleagues he made over the years in ESUSD. A moment of silence will be observed in his memory, in the memory of Coach Parker. Please bow your heads. Thank you. 7:55, the meeting is adjourned.